Welcome everybody to Into the Score. My name is Avishai Darash. I'm your host for this podcast. In Into the Score, I get a chance to sit and interview very interesting people from the industry of music, politics, and entrepreneurship. And today, I have with me Marcel Vogel.
Hi.
Hi, Marcel. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm already had the morning routine of a parent, biking through the rain, biking here, rain gear on, the Amsterdam lifestyle.
You're a parent. How many kids do you have?
2.
How is that?
Exhausting.
Exhausting.
I'm always saying I'm living the dream, just that the dream is effing exhausting. But it's the dream nevertheless, so...
And when you say it's a dream, you mean like the combination of having a career as a professional musician and a family, or?
Yeah, my life in general, everything is, or most of the things are the way I would want them to be and can't imagine it to be different. Yeah, and everything else just depends on the kids growing older, I suppose.
Yeah. So I would like to know, like, this is something that I'm always asking people that I get a chance to interview. Do you remember the first memory that made you realize that music is the thing that you want to be doing for the rest of your life?
No. Also, I suppose there's no... For me, it's been definitely a gradual thing. Just something I've been doing more and more, and I guess I'm a very intuitive person. And then I guess the decision is made at a certain point, and the realization that the decision was made comes probably later for me in many ways. So I can't say... I mean, I was just obsessed with DJing and music and...
From which age was it?
So my memory of going out to buy music and find music is around 12. And obviously I've been listening to music before that. I also just thought about that I'm really enjoyed just making pause tapes, like compilation tapes, taking stuff from my mom's CD and putting my favorite tunes on there. And I guess that's the predecessor to DJing. And then when I was 16, I was inspired by a friend who was already a DJ to get turntables and buy records and learn how to mix that. But I don't think I necessarily thought it was a career path of it.
Like in the sense of you, if I understand you correctly, it's something that you were just fascinated by, and slowly and gradually kind of your life revolved around that thing.
Yeah.
And when it started to, correct me if I'm wrong, when money started to come in actually, then all of a sudden that became like a plausible profession for you? Or was it something that you knew that you had to sacrifice no matter what and continue and you're going to find yourself on this path?
Well, it's hard to tell because it's 25 years ago. But I guess it's the pursuit for music, looking for music. That's really what drove everything. That also led me to leave my hometown when I was 18, 19. And always just looking for music and trying to be in a place where I can find good music.
Yeah, it's interesting to say that because I see a reoccurring theme when I talk to people here on the opposite chair, and what I realize is that it's almost like the reoccurring theme of music chose me. Like when you say, I left my hometown and I was pursuing music, and it's like something that fascinated you to a point that you actually sacrificed where you're coming from, for instance. So you went into this like journey of I need to expand myself. Did you feel that?
First of all, I don't see it. Of course, you can still put it that way, but I don't necessarily see it as a sacrifice because my hometown is so small and so boring that I also just had to leave for the sake of sanity.
Where is it?
Paderborn in Germany. Yeah, I think it's just being like a open person and craving creative input and different people, and so I suppose it all comes together. I guess in that sense, for me, it was very interesting to go to other places and experience art, for example, to go to Münster or Kassel or maybe to Dortmund, just to go into a museum and experience this different world, and just being confronted with that in my hometown I couldn't find the music I was looking for and that I assumed existed in form of records and probably also art.
And where did you go when you were 18?
I followed a girlfriend to Kassel, lived there for a year, then I had to do my social service, and I moved to Frankfurt. I worked at a daycare for 2 years, and I also happened to work at Bergmann, which was run by renowned DJ Atta. And I guess it was a really fortunate situation because I met a lot of, it was really cool stores, so it was a lot of designer clothes and streetwear. And I guess it exposed me to a lot of interesting people. But to answer a question from earlier, at that point, music was already driving me. I guess as a DJ, you always have a close-knit relationship with record stores, and I guess that's often also made me move to different cities.
And is it like a natural evolution that you see with yourself that happened from, let's say, spinning records to starting releasing your own music, or you knew from the beginning, I want to create my own music, my own stuff?
I almost want to think that I was always interested in creation. I don't have any, or at that time I didn't have any training and limited resources. So I have memories of, I had a Commodore 64 and I had the crappiest programs on there. And I guess I was really into trying to make music with that, even though you can imagine the limitations of that. So I guess I also tried to do with 2 tape decks to isolate kick drums and trying to make a beat, but it never really worked because the pause buttons weren't exact enough for that. And when I was working in Frankfurt, and basically the moment the bank would give me money, because I had a paycheck, I bought a MPC, MPC 2000 XL, a sampler, and yeah, I guess in a way it's also a necessity as a DJ to put your name out there. I mean, I guess there are multiple ways, but it's still, if you put out a good record, you probably get a few gigs from that.
When you say it's a necessity, you mean it's a necessity to show yourself as a maker, as a creator, or as like a very proficient mixer in that sense?
I think 9 out of 10 times it's like a good marketing tool to get your name more widespread.
If you create your own stuff, you mean?
To create whatever you create, I guess there are multiple angles, but yeah.
And was it something that you realized gradually when you got into the business, or was it something that also, did you have mentors that were guiding you throughout your process?
I wouldn't say I didn't have mentors.
You didn't have any mentors?
No, not really. I mean, whatever you can find in magazines or in books about that. And of course, I mean, it's like a parallel movement. So it's like, I definitely wanted to create. And, but I also realized that by having your name on a record, that it's good for business.
And it would sound kind of, it's a bit of a grand question, but...
Let me interrupt for a second.
Yeah, sure.
My whole process and my whole story is extremely naive. It's like...
Please tell it,
No, I mean, that's the point already. It's like everything comes from the true passion and obsession with music, with playing. I mean, the same as you as a musician, you know how much time you need to invest to become anything
absolutely
presentable, and you just do it. And you're like, there's no nobody forced me, nobody asked me. My parents or my mom has no relationship to that. I think she actually never heard me spin in my whole life.
Really? Wow.
And so, yeah, I had a few friends who did that, and yeah, then it just caught on. But I'm always going the long route. I'm always going all the way. And my new favorite line is, which explains how I end up doing the right thing, is I usually end up having excuses. So once I tried every other way and I ran out of excuses, then I'm doing the right thing.
So actually you learn it by which path doesn't work.
All the paths that don't work, I try them all.
So it's like a lot of trial and error.
Yeah,
constant
absolutely.
Trial and error.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's interesting that you say that about like that it's your path is naive. I mean, I haven't met anyone, this is just number 4 that we're doing, but of course I had these type of conversations for the past 20 years, and I haven't met anyone that said, I'm going to get into the music business because I want this and this and that. I'm talking about makers, I'm talking about creators. Usually it comes from a very naive and pure and, let's say, vulnerable place, instead of like, I have this goal that I want to achieve. I feel like this is coming much later. Much later. When I started with music, I can say that it just took me so much by surprise that I didn't have a different option. It was like my body reacted to it so strongly that it's almost like a junkie. I wanted to run after that feeling, and I'm still running after that feeling, you know, of me being 11 years old and experiencing the first time, like hearing music that enveloped me completely. And I was wondering if you also had this type of trajectory, you know, like there is the naivety, there is the love for music, there is the coming from pure and vulnerable place, like I said, but then there is a career, and then there is money.
But that's the beauty that I feel is like every time I go to a record store, I can experience that, to listen to something for the first time. That's so, I mean, that's what I'm generally looking for something that I haven't heard.
Yeah.
So I'm getting really bored. That's why I'm not a classics DJ, for example, where like, oh, you play the same tune every party over and over. You know exactly what goes to what. No, I'm just like generally looking for something that blows my mind. Yeah.
So that curiosity never dies. Actually.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's what I do in the studio. That's what I do when I play.
Well, that's... Yeah, because I mean, this is what I love about doing this thing, is that I get a chance. You asked me in the beginning before we rolled the tape, how is it called? What is this podcast about? And I told you Into the Score. And I feel like it's into the score of the human experience of the musician. And if there is a common denominator that I'm hearing is really that there is this constant curiosity. Like, it doesn't matter if you are a world-class violinist or world-class DJ or even booking agent, or even, it doesn't matter. Like, people in our business, what drives them is the curiosity to see more of what they haven't found out yet. And is it something that, like you said, you experience in the studio? So how do you deal, let's say, with blockages that you have sometimes, or even if you have them at all? Like, what is your ritual?
You would have to have a very narrow definition of blockage, since I do a few different things. I think it's always possible to override it. Maybe it's because I don't have it's never one point destination. So as long as you stay open to, I mean, I also, the way I'm in the studio right now, in the last couple of years, we built a room in the house, and I have a bunch of outboard synthesizers and drum machines and stuff. And a lot of time at the moment, I'm not even recording. So most of the time, I mess around for a few hours, and then I'm like, okay, delete.
So is it a kill your darlings situation?
It's, at this point, I'd much rather get to a point where I'm like extremely happy before I start recording, instead of saving something and then spending way too much time trying to make it something that is not. It's like a friend of mine told me, it's you can't polish a turd, you know? So I'm looking for the right sound, the right vibe, what I want to express. So maybe I'm also training myself to be more efficient in the process. Maybe it's also the lack of time. With 2 kids, my wife has a corporate job, so I'm doing the drop-offs, the pickups, so I have very limited time during a week. And of course, on top of that, I need to prepare DJ gigs and cook and do housework and do admin and the label and exercise, all these things. So it's a bit much, and so I guess I'm in the process of trying to, when I turn on the machines, to get everything out in a extremely limited time without having to go back and then spend weeks on trying to fix it somehow.
It's interesting that you said, I'm going to assume something, and I want to know if it resonates with you. The less time you have, the more you're confined within responsibilities. I'm saying it also as a father that also needs to do 110 things at the same time. Do you feel that you're working more to the point and more efficiently in comparison to when you didn't have all these responsibilities and all these like things that press you?
I guess I'm in the process of becoming that, of realizing, for me, for example, I'm signed up for the gym like last December, and then I didn't go for 8 months. And now for a month, I have a really good routine. And so I realized that the only way to get through this and reach my goals is by building this routine. So I guess I feel I'm in transformation into becoming what you're describing. So I'm still struggling, and some days I might be overwhelmed if have too many tasks. So sometimes it's like, oh, then I'm not doing any of them or something, or it's like, or it feels like I'm not doing any of them. So yeah, I'm in the process of trying to become just that, and I feel like every day getting a bit better. And
I wanted to ask you, because you told me just before the the podcast started that you moved here in 2010
Yeah.
to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And then I gave the remark of, oh, this is the time where you actually founded Lumberjacks in Hell. What is the thing that brought you to start a label? And was it connected to you moving to Amsterdam? Was it like the catalyst, or was it later?
No, I mean, when we moved here, the label was already in the process, and there was probably a year-long process where I wrestled with the idea, and of course it's scary. I mean, that's what, when you're young, every new endeavor is like, oh, what if it fails? And then I guess when you did that 20 times, 40 times, 50 times, you realize it's like, then you just choose a different approach and just get up and...
trauma, yeah.
And I guess probably there is also no failure. There's only experience in a way. One time I thought it's like, while you're failing, you're actually just practicing. Failure is practice, and that's what I meant also with that I ran out of excuses. It's like, yeah, you fall on your nose as much as you have to, and I guess the quicker you get that over with, the sooner you can explore your goals and what you want to do, and use that as a plateau to go to the next thing and start all over again. So starting the label came from the SoundCloud culture. I don't know how familiar you were with SoundCloud.
Absolutely.
When they start, I think they started 2007. I used to live in Berlin, 2003 to 2007, so I had a connection there, and I did edits. You use tracks from other people, and then you recut it to make more sense for your DJing, perhaps. For your DJing or other people's DJing. And I had a couple of things that resonated a lot on SoundCloud, so I felt encouraged to put them out. And so I moved. I was living in Basel at that time. So after Berlin, I went to Basel. And then I moved to Amsterdam, because of the music scene here, which is like a light tower. I felt that...
what do you mean by that?
The light from Amsterdam and what was happening here musically shone to wherever I was, and I was aware of that there's a really good and healthy scene, which 14 years later, I'm still here, and I'm still blown away how much fun you can have
Right.
on all instances. And so I came here to study audio engineering at the SIA. And
No, you said that because sometimes like we tell our story and we forget that there might be people listening that they're just starting out. They're like they're listening to it to get inspiration and to get like reinforcement, also to get clarity on the path of people that made it already, or path of people that failed 20, 30, 40, 50 times and chose a different path. You were talking about the fear that you had about starting a label. Mm-hmm. What were the fears? What were the tangible fears that you had?
I guess if I have to rationalize it, it's probably like wasting my time, because whatever you do, you want it to get you further. And I guess it's like, oh, what if nobody cares? What if I invest this time and effort and nobody cares? But I guess their overthinking comes into place, where like, if you spend a year thinking about something, you could as well just invest a couple of weeks and just do it and see the results. But of course, the thinking is part of the process. But I mean, my suggestion is whatever you do, just make sure that you make it as nice as you can from a
when you say nice as you
quality
can,
control is very important. So I guess especially with music production or labels, some people, it feels like they don't really care.
What do you mean by that? They don't care?
It's like I mean, with everything, it's like when the music doesn't sound as good, or the artwork doesn't feel right, or when it's. But maybe it's also like a where I'm coming from and the school I'm coming from. There's a certain ethos about how sincere. For me, it's probably a lot about sincerity. To try to create something beautiful and meaningful. And I guess that shines through the label and my DJ sets. I guess sometimes people just treat their passion too much as a hobby. But I guess it's also the balance between how much time should you invest and when do you have to should you let go? And for me, it's a lot of stuff is also trying to just keep in the flow. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm a very intuitive person. So I'm also approximating the result a lot. And you make concessions, time versus do I feel it's good enough? Is everything that I wanted to say, is it expressed coherently, and can it be perceived? And then I also just want to go on to the next thing and keep things moving.
And why the name?
I'm not a perfectionist.
Yeah.
Long story short, I'm not a perfectionist. I'm a sincere imperfectionist.
What do you mean by that when you say I'm a sincere imperfectionist?
No, I mean, I really care about whatever I do. It's really important to me. But there's also a point where I'm like, okay, I can work on this another 3 years.
Yeah.
But what I can actually achieve in that 3 years is maybe less than 10% or something. So should I stick with that, or should I just let go? And more often, it makes more sense for me to let go of something.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because I had a friend that worked on an album for 3 years, and I remember we were talking together about his album, and I told him, you gotta just bring out the album. Like, it's not gonna get better. You know, at some point I was like, he went into loops. He wanted to record all the bass again. He wanted to record the drums again. He wanted to record, because he started to just get caught up in like himself, you know, this echo chambering of himself. Oh, it could be better. It could be this. While actually what was happening is that he was changing, but the music already reached its peak, which means that you already need to release it and take all these ideas that you have.
That's a beautiful thing that you just said there. That should be highlighted.
Sure. I mean, in the sense of, I could see him just going into these circles with himself. And then finally, when he brought it out, the music was so dense, and it was perfectly edited. It was perfectly sounding, perfectly this. But it encapsulated a moment in time that wasn't relevant anymore for himself. And instead of taking it to the next album and the next album and the next album, like what you said, you're imperfectionist, you accept your imperfection. I wonder if you see it more as, this is where it's getting at, this is where we are, we have to let it go, and continue to the next one, because that's how we grow. Because it's what I saw with him, he was stuck within himself and he couldn't get out of it. He wanted to make a masterpiece instead of thinking, if I actually take all that experience.
Sometimes, but that's the thing. Sometimes people are proven right. There are people who have that and they get to a point and it's like, see, that's why I spent 7 years on it.
Right.
But trying to find the balance and trying to find what's working for the individual. It's like everything I say, of course, is how I approach it and how I create my guardrails to keep improving. But there's times when you need to do that, and there's times when you need to find another way. And yeah, I guess it's impossible to have a universal answer to that.
When do you know that a track is ready?
I have great intuition. Sometimes it's also just like, I mean, I work with a lot of different people. So with the last track, or with some of the tracks, I'm able to just be like, hey, I'm done with this. I cannot think about it anymore. Also from the experience of having sat with music for a couple of years. And being like, oh yeah, nothing really changed. It didn't really make a difference. But
it's like what we said before, actually. It reached a point of peak. And
yeah, and I think for me it's so valuable to put out music and see how people react to it, and also observe my reaction to their reaction. So if people approach me about a certain project where I'm happy about, then I'm like, this sometimes when I'm like, oh, I spent a lot of time here trying to get it right, and that's the result. The result is it resonates with people. And then there's other things where I'm like, oh, nobody cares. And so I think it's good to allow yourself to experience everything.
It's so interesting.
But if somebody's listening to this and he needs me to tell him to release something and let go of it, just reach out to me. I'm usually have 10 minutes for everybody.
This is something that I have to say, and also I'm going to say it there. The revolution of social media has made the peer-to-peer connection so quick that the community became much smaller but also global at the same time. So we can just reach each other, you know. Someone loves what you're doing, they can reach you directly. And there is the gatekeepers are falling apart in that sense. The gatekeepers of keeping information from one another are not as present as they were 15 years ago or 20 years ago. And that's what's so beautiful about it. So it's beautiful that you're offering this. I think it's commendable. So anyone that is seeing this, please reach out.
It also comes from a place where I think that art in general, no matter if it's music or whatever, is just really important to have a healthy society. And I guess also on the individual level, just creating and sharing just keeps the person healthy.
Right.
And if you don't have that release, I mean, I guess everybody, maybe they do sports instead or something.
Yeah.
But I think I have it very often that just by spending a couple of minutes with somebody and just being like, maybe even by, I think you should try harder, or I think you should do this, or I think you should release it, or I think work with a different person, or that you can, by paying attention and saying the right words, very often you can elevate a person and give them maybe 2 years or 3 years in acceleration, and make everybody happier in the process.
Do you feel that you had a lot of these experiences, or is it something that you want to reciprocate with younger makers?
I wish I would have had more, and maybe it's coming from that place, knowing exactly how it feels to
Not
be
to have it
stuck,
Yeah.
to feel like, oh, somebody should come and tell me what to do. And very often it's really, we are very often going through the same processes of doubt and of not seeing it right, and not, I mean, the eye can't see itself,
Yeah.
right? It's like I'm very busy it's almost like ultrasound, how beds use it, that I'm trying to see my projection in the other, because I know I'm always in here, so it's really hard to perceive myself. But by also trying to read other people's reactions, even when you send somebody a track and you can tell by the language what they mean when they say nice or when they say ugh. I mean, it sounds a bit psycho, but just like I said, it comes back to having a good intuition. Maybe in my teenage years I was always like a little bit of an outcast, but that made me understand myself more by thinking about, oh, what's happening, why are people reacting like this or that, and then maybe being able to know who I am, and also giving me, I want to say, the gift of being able to look through people a little bit more. And of course that takes out a lot of confusion, because if you're confused by everybody, and then it makes it a lot harder to make good decisions.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I mean, I see us musicians or creators, you know, we have a different, it doesn't mean we're above or below, that's just an observation of a different level of sensitivity.
Yeah, for sure.
A different level of actually responding to our outside world and inner world in that sense. And maybe we're not the most talkative, but we're the most expressive in that sense. And that's why we have music as that agent. Because it's not words that we're using. We're using metaphors. We're using artistic metaphors in that sense. Like when I compose, I'm creating an emotional world in that sense. I'm creating an emotion. I'm searching for that emotion within myself, and I'm transcribing it, or I'm translating it into the piano, the orchestra, whatever it is, to a composition. And I was wondering if you have a similar process in that, is that you're looking for an emotion. Like I'll get to why I'm asking this, because I listen to your music. It's very lush, has a lot of text in it, has like vocals, at least from the tracks that I heard, a lot of color in it. It's very colorful. I love
the color. Thanks for noticing.
Yeah, it's a lot of colors. You're using. I love the chords that you're using. Chords, like it's a specific type of sound that you created. Funny enough, like if you would put a few tracks now, and you'll put yours in the middle of it, I'll probably know what it is, which is amazing, because you have your own signature in that sense. Also, the type of kick that you're using, the type of low end, it was very warm. Everything is very warm, lush. That's like the word that I can use. Is it something that you feel that you are searching within yourself to express it and share it with others, or is it something that just happened naturally?
I mean, first of all, I have to say most of my music is a collaborative process, where often I function as the director, because I'm not a musician. I took a couple of lessons here and there, but I'm basically, yeah, sure. So I guide a lot of people and tell them what I want, and then we arrive at a place that is satisfying to us or to me. With the vocals, I think the older stuff, I often wrote a lot of the lyrics. And then with the stuff with Lima, he writes everything,
exactly.
and he's also doing way more of the production. It's usually like a mosaic. But I always have with Lima, he's like a genius in my opinion. So it's like there's very little I usually give him. Usually it's a beat, then some of the tracks, maybe it's a bass line or maybe some chords. But also he's extremely efficient. It makes me so jealous. But yeah, of course the sound comes from me listening to music for, let's say, 30 years, 35 years, DJing 25 years, 30 years. It's so confusing. So yeah, I'm looking for a very specific sound. I'm inspired by all the music I'm listening to. Every time I go, yesterday I've been to 2 record stores, and just the stuff you find. Maybe you saw I do a series of gospel mixes, for example.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And it's just like, it's just what's going on in there and how people express themselves, and also having a large group of people who create this sonics together. And
it's very powerful. Gospel is insanely powerful. Yeah.
And in opposition, how a pop song works, where you said is like your friend, where you try to make everything perfect and concise. And I'm especially in the gospel music or in funk, jazz, disco funk or whatever. I'm looking for, also in the gospel, I think there's almost like imperfections that just wouldn't work to the casual listener, where you need to be present to appreciate it and be in the break and be in the all the stuff that's going on, and just be like, wow, this is perfection.
I mean, it's interesting that you say that, because gospel, by definition, is a spiritual experience. And because it's a spiritual experience, it's there to elevate, it's there to touch the spirit. And when music, and I see it a lot in jazz, which is very interesting, it's a very interesting evolution of that it went from the heart to the mind. And all of a sudden, it's like the choices that certain composers or certain makers are doing are more cerebral than physical, than heartfelt. And with gospel, and I also come from like the Andalusian music, Arabic music, which is the predecessor of all of that Gnawa music. These they don't read music. They're not, they grew up on basically playing it constantly from a very young age for literally hundreds and hundreds of years, from master to student. Student becomes a master, passes it to the student, and so on and so forth. The emotional aspect of it hasn't been suppressed. And this is something that I see happening a lot in, I'm not saying, of course I'm generalizing, don't cancel me, whatever. But I see a lot of the, let's say, contemporary classical music, contemporary jazz, is that the emotional aspect is being suppressed. Although it's coming from a spiritual place. It's coming from a place of actual spirit that is trying to go beyond the language and speak a universal language of music that just touches you directly. I mean, I lived in New York for a year. I had a chance to go to a few churches and just experience that. It was one of the most amazing experiences I ever had. And it's interesting that you say that, because we have the technology right now to take all of these cultures and put them together. You know, electronic music together with gospel, to sample this and sample that and bring them all together and then create this new emotional hybrid. And that's actually what I heard a lot in your music.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not here to, you know.
No, but I'm appreciative of the fact that you were able to perceive that and that you're also able to communicate that.
Yeah,
That's,
of course.
Of course, it's touching for me because, you know, it's such a long journey for me. And it's like you feel always, if you don't have a big success, then you feel like, oh, nobody's listening.
No,
And
that's
so,
not.
No, but you know how it goes. And you cannot be too full of yourself when you're on the journey of going somewhere, because it will stop you in trying to become better.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's like you don't really know who's listening, why they're listening, how much are they listening, what are they feeling, and all these things. So you're expressing it like that. I'm like, oh wow, that's so nice that it reached you and that you were able to dissect it in such a way.
And I think also it's that curiosity and naivety that you were talking about before that kept this pure. Mm-hmm. You're talking to someone, and I can say that, and people that are listening, I'm one of the most qualified people in this country in terms of like the stuff that I can do. Mm-hmm. Technically, the stuff I could write. At some point, I found myself like, wow, I'm so highly technical with what I do, is that I need to go back to the source, and that source for me is the piano. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, now I'm working on a new piano. I'm working on a solo piano album, and it's bringing out like things from the darkness, like from the shadow, you know, that I've been suppressing for so long. Because, I mean, Joao was asking me why I left the orchestra that I was working with also. It's because I was operating a lot of times from my ego. I had power and I had position, and I saw that I'm turning into something that I don't want to turn into. That it's kind of like I drank from the nectar of power, and power, it's nonsense. It's all delusion and illusion, all self-deception. And the thing that suffered eventually was the piano playing. Mm-hmm. I almost thought of quitting. I said, I don't need this. I have like all these people that I can tell what to do all the time, and I'm just writing music, and I'll hire a pianist and this. But something in me told me that if I continue down that road, I'm going to look back at myself and be like, what the fuck have you been doing? Like, I lost a part of myself that is the reason that I started it all. So to get back to you, if I hear all these things, and correct me if I'm wrong, you kept yourself with that naivety, or let's say kept yourself with a certain level of ignorance. Like you say, oh, he's so proficient with what he's doing, and I'm actually directing and more and this and that. But that kept that level of purity that you can just interject into the music. Instead of, because my thing was that I was greedy. I wanted to do everything. Mm-hmm. I wanted to write for all the orchestra, and I wanted to rehearse, and I wanted to play piano, and I wanted to improvise, and I wanted to do all these things. And greed was eating me up, basically, because I wanted everything, and I wanted that validation. I was running after the validation. So I was wondering, did you find yourself in these situations also, when power was presented to you, that you drank from it and was like, whoa, just a second, this is something that I feel good with or I feel bad with?
I want to say no. But, I mean, the reason why I said said the word sincerity earlier is because a friend of mine once told me that he admires my sincerity, and I think that's really true because I stay true to my ethos when it comes to the music, to the spirituality of the experience. In the same way, it's like basically our in a way, the way DJs make money nowadays is having good videos of their performances. And I find myself so often in the situation where I'm like, I guess I should take out my phone now and make a video. And it's really like that I feel like I'm betraying my audience and I'm betraying the connection in that moment because it's holy. It's like when I play, it's not a transactional for me. It's like it's a communal experience. We're having an experience together, and I want to stay true to that. I don't feel I've ever been in a position of true power, and that's probably also naive.
I mean, you run a label. People want stuff from you.
Yes, but for me, it's also the communal aspect that we're creating something together and trying to, maybe we're trying to make it bigger or what. But money is always only a means to an end. It's not the purpose to do things. That's how I see it anyway. I don't change to achieve something. So I guess the nectar, or what you describe, maybe a parallel to that would be doing something that I don't feel, and that's almost impossible for me. It's so and that's the sincerity, where it's so painful to do something against the of course it's a self-indoctrination. It's a self where I'm like, this is my dogma, this is how I feel, I need to do things, and then I can't branch out a tiny little bit here or there to see how that feels, but I'm not all of a sudden become a hits DJ or play a sound that I don't want. If I do something that comes from a real place of, again, curiosity, and that I want to feel that in the moment.
Yeah.
And that's why my music sounds the way it sounds. That's why I DJ the way I DJ. That's everything I do is because what I do is not a commercial product. In that it's like an expression of, I mean, I am a filter. When I go to the record store, I listen to 200 records and I filter all that, and then I express everything, all the inputs that come in. If I go to a nice party and feel something, then I want to bring that to my party and recreate that. When I go to a museum and I see something, I mean, I'm always like, when I do something nice, I want to share with as many people as possible because I want them to elevate their experience as well. But maybe it's also because I'm just not a professional in anything. I'm an enthusiast in a way. I'm like, I'm doing something from a place of, wow, I really love this. I'm just really, whatever I'm doing, I'm just really into it. And
I have a question that just...
The one thing is, obviously, having 2 kids and having a lot less time also forces me to maybe become a bit more savvy about a lot of these things. Not that I want to do something that I don't want to feel, but be more efficient and proficient with things.
I mean, time is also of the
Yeah,
essence.
time, and I need to provide for my family. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a question. It's something that just came up, and before you came here, I mean, when you were here, actually, before we started rolling, you were like, yeah, the mic and this and the cable and this. You were very authentic. You were just like, you weren't feeling, let's say, I'm assuming here you're not a people's pleaser.
I guess not.
Yeah.
Was that the question?
No.
The answer is no.
It's coming up. What the question is because you're authentic, do you feel, especially in our vulture business, that it worked against you?
Yes and no. No and yes, I guess.
Yes and no, or no or yes?
If the so I guess we're still talking about my authentic self. So if I would suffer from that above the ordinary, I guess it's not a clearly defined question, because my path is my path. So did it work against me? Is something working against me? Does it make me stronger? Does it make me evaluate my path more precisely? So saying the simple answer would be, yeah, it worked against me because, yeah, I pushed myself out of business opportunities, make more money, have more fame or whatever. But since I am me, there was no other way.
Yeah.
And by accepting that, I guess it's all good. So that's where the yes and no comes. Yeah, if we look just at numbers, sure. I could have, if I'm going around and being best buddies and, let me play. Yeah, that would work great. And there are a lot of people doing that. Because I'm quite authentic, I just can't do that. If I'm smiling at you, if I'm joking with you, it means I like you.
Yeah.
If I don't like you, you know that.
That's why we can talk to each other. I'm very known with that. If I don't like you, you know it. You know it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So we got to that moment of the podcast where, and I sent you that question, is because it's important to know that. What was the worst gig you had? The worst experience that you can remember? Oh my God, like a horror story.
I had a acquaintance of mine book me an Australia tour, and he was just really eager for me to come over, and so we could meet and stuff, and that was very kind of him. But in order to make it work, he booked me into a casino in Melbourne, and it was during the lockdowns or something. Not the they basically would close most venues quite early, and then you could only have certain events at the casino because politics. And I'm still very naive, so every time I think somebody books me, I think they know what I'm doing, and they book me for what I'm doing. But there was like a very posh party, and they played EDM before me, they played EDM after me. Nobody reacted to anything what I was able to play. I was like scrambling my head. I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing here? And so that took me down after 45 minutes, and they
You were supposed to play how long?
Oh, I don't know anymore. And then they tried to cut my fee in half, and it was really, but also playing these 45 minutes, and everybody was like, who is this idiot? Yeah, I guess it happens. But
I mean, what was the? Because I'm asking this question, and I always get like very funny stories or horror stories. And what was your feeling in that moment? if you can remember, like what was the?
I mean, gigs like that, basically, I luckily don't have many of those, but it makes you question your whole purpose. And you're like, oh, wow, I guess I don't want to be a DJ anymore or something. Or what the fuck was that? Or wow, these people. Because I'm so insulated in my existence, also by being in Amsterdam, where I can be surrounded by good music and good people all the time. So sometimes I keep forgetting how much bad music there is and that the majority of music is terrible. And I just wasn't prepared for that. So, yeah, I was like, wow.
You see? And what was the best experience that you can remember? An experience that you're like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
I mean, I always enjoy when I'm DJing. That's I guess it's a little moments. It can be really nice with a small crowd if the sound is okay and people are just eating up what you do. It's just about the connection. It's a love triangle, right? It's me, it's the audience, and it's the music. And I mean, you could bring in the sound system and the environment and the light and stuff. Yeah, I don't necessarily want to say favorites. It's always nice. I mean, 1.5 years ago, my wife's from Australia. That's why we go this year Christmas again. Was playing a party called Soul of Sydney, and I think the beauty of it was that a lot of my wife's family was there, cousins, her sister, her father was there, who would never go out, and I have videos of him dancing, and it was just really good. I mean, I've pictures of that and videos, but it's whenever people are into what you're doing, that's it. There's I guess there's no hierarchy. It's not like only because there's 1,000 people doesn't make it better. You just want get to the higher state of being, I guess, and just have a good time. Yeah, I mean, there's so many good memories. It's just.
But is there something particular you remember, like a venue or a gig or?
No, but that's what I mean. The Soul of Sydney thing was just like, wow. I mean, there are more than 500 people and dancers, and the way people appreciate the music in that moment. We're just like, because what you do is like, you're in the record store, you're at home, and you listen to something and you explore how it makes you feel. Yeah. And then you want to translate that to people that you don't know. I mean, that's the beauty. It's like there's a room full of people and you have never met any of them, and you play a record on and you translate. Basically, you prepared an emotion, right? Yeah. So you're like, and I want to give you this emotion. And when you have eye contact, you see them smile or dance, and you realize they love what you love as much as you do.
And then you're like a part of something that is bigger than you, actually, that you created.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think we're all, it doesn't matter if you're spinning records or you're playing in a concert hall or you're playing in a bar or playing for just a few people. I think that reciprocation of I created something as a maker, I thought of something, I'm bringing a journey to people, and that journey is being reflected within what they feel. That's like what you call in yoga, you call it samadhi, is when there is actually, you go beyond the mind. in that sense. It's a pure emotion. Beautiful, beautiful. And if you got a chance to sit with yourself, younger Marcel, just starting out, but with the Marcel that is sitting in front of me right now, you got a chance to sit with that younger Marcel for a cup of coffee, what would be the advice that you would give him?
From my mindset right now, regular exercise. Yeah, I mean, it's a mixed bag because obviously I needed to make all the experiences I needed to make in order to be here. Learn more, like foundational. So if it's music you want to pursue, learn how to play an instrument, learn how to play a second instrument, do your foundations, collaborate. I mean, that only came for me through the experience at SRA. I mean, I tried to do it before that, but after that, I got into it way more, and it's extremely satisfying just to work with other people who.
Right.
I guess it's good to have an understanding of all aspects of music production, about label work, about how to do a party, about DJing. And the more you know, the more you know. I mean, sounds dumb, but yeah. But it's whatever you learn, it's like understand business, just keep learning. I mean, it just wasn't in my wheelhouse. I guess my mom's not from a academic background. So like I said, I didn't really have a mentor to guide me like that. Maybe find a mentor, ask questions, be kind to others and yourself. Exercise. Be sincere, don't sell out. Stay open. Inspiration is everywhere. It's and I guess for us it's clear because we are tuned a certain way, but it's also gradual opening and experience. So the more you experience art and nature and people, for me the DJing also is a great gift in that it took me around the world,
right,
and exposed me to a lot of different people, a lot of different scenes. Travel, believe in yourself. Don't be. Yeah, it's all come, and I guess all the stories are true. Everything that you hear people say about life experiences, you will find out sooner or later. And I guess it's normal to always think this is how sticks are, but I'm different and it's not going to happen to me. But sooner or later, life is catching up with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Age, life, responsibilities. Marcel, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, for coming and doing this. Is there something you want to plug? This is going to be out the 19th.
October?
Yeah.
So this past RDA, so you're gonna missed me completely. I just rebooted my label Lumberjacks in Hell, like in a big bad way. Have an eye for that. Follow me on Instagram, both myself and the label, I suppose. I'm sorry I'm posting a lot, but I just like sharing stuff. I guess that's also why I'm a DJ, because I really, when I find something that I like, I want people to experience that and hopefully make their lives better. But yeah, catch me DJing, give my music a chance, and stay creative.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this podcast. Thank you again, Marcel, for
Thanks,
joining. And please like, subscribe, and follow for more. We have so much more content for you. And we'll see you at the gig.